Hello and welcome back to another episode of Generation Films. My name is American Ben. Now to begin, we should point out that luckily the prequel films have helped us to contextualize the latter events on LV-426 and other happenings involving Ellen Ripley. We know now that corporate lust for profit and a megalomaniacal CEO's quest for eternal life led to the creation and birth of the Xenomorph via humanity's unrestrained exploration into the great beyond. Of course, ultimately it was a synthetic, David, who engineered the first Xenomorph. As I said, androids suck. The Wayland Corporation innovated and progressed synthetic programming with complete disregard for the safety and prosperity of humankind. So before we look at examples of Xenomorphs' actions on the ground, it's important to acknowledge that by way of androids, humans created Xenomorphs, and thus the destinies of both Xenomorphs and humans became intertwined. And once Xenomorphs were created and engineered to reproduce via organic hosts, it's kind of hard to blame them for trying to survive. After all, such is the natural order of things. And had humans stayed away from their planet, Xenomorphs never would have existed. Thus, from the very beginning, human colonization has played a role in Xenomorph violence against humans. But yes, humans were deceived into heading for Planet 4 by David. And once again, we're back to androids suck. Side note, PSA to all spacefarers out there, don't answer distress signals. For the love of all things human, don't answer distress signals. All roads lead to killer aliens or the proto-molecule. Now, let's move chronologically and first think about the events that took place in Alien Covenant on Planet 4. The precursor to the Xenomorph, the Neomorph, emerged into the world to be met with human knife and gun violence. The Neomorph that killed Rosenthal, let's call him Ralphie, only attacked her after she reached for a gun, and Orem, the Covenant's captain, shot Ralphie despite it not showing any signs of hostility towards Orem. Aside from the minor indirect threat of finding his crew member's head in the water beside him, but so it was humans who presented themselves as a threat to the Neomorphs, and thus it's only natural and honestly justified that the first Xenomorph should react violently towards humans. It must have registered them as a threat and felt scared. After all, here's the kicker. Xenomorphs can actually inherit memories genetically. And so that newborn Xenomorphs attack humans might not be indicative that they're naturally violent, but rather that they simply know the threat that humans pose to them. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that humans set the tone for their relationship with Xenomorphs by using guns and other weapons to deal with them rather than their words. Then what about the events in Alien? First off, it was Weyland-Yutani that secretly directed the Nostromo to LV-426 for the very reason of finding and obtaining a Xenomorph for their own nefarious purposes. The Xenomorphs did not invite the humans, it was the other way around. Then it wasn't like a Xenomorph stormed the Nostromo. Rather, an infected human, or perhaps we should say a gestating human, carried a Xenomorph embryo onto the ship. And of course, it was an android, Ash, secretly acting in the interest of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation, who opened the doors for the infected shipmate to enter. Androids suck, but humans made them. Now let's be clear, the Xenomorph born on the Nostromo, let's call him Jim, was not exactly born into comfortable surroundings. Jim was trapped on a ship controlled by a corporation hoping to kidnap and experiment on him. And he was a baby. Had he not wiped out everyone on the ship, he likely would have been killed or ended up in a Weyland-Yutani run laboratory. I mean, think about this, the Xenomorph didn't kill the cat on board. Now, maybe this was because the cat was too small to be a host for a chestburster, but it also could have been because the cat presented no threat to the Xenomorph. And the latter explanation helps to corroborate our self-defense criteria for Xenomorph violence. Finally, let's note that the movie ends with Ellen Ripley having one last confrontation with the Xenomorph on the Nostromo's escape shuttle. I mean, did anyone else notice that the Xenomorph was just peacefully chilling in a crevice on the shuttle, not actually attacking Ellen? And Ellen went ahead and blasted it out into the vacuum, shot it with a grappling gun, and then incinerated it. And we wonder why the Xenomorphs in Aliens on LV-426 weren't exactly thrilled to see her? Speaking of Aliens, the second movie in the series, let's not pretend that the Xenomorph showed up and started massacring humans on LV-426 either. No, the humans colonized the Xenomorph's adopted planet and started terraforming it. An environment and terrain that was perfectly suitable to Xenomorphs was being torn up and reappropriated for human use. I feel like I could make a pretty good case that all of the xenomorph attacks that happened on the planet were simply efforts to prevent humans from destroying their home. And yes, I know that it seems like the colonists were the first hosts for xenomorphs, but I'm not completely sure that they weren't already there before the humans got there. And then Weyland-Yutani, a company that xenomorphs already knew to be a threat, sent xenomorph murderer Ellen Ripley to the planet along with a platoon of Marines armed with massive guns for the express purpose of committing violence against and kidnapping them. Why the hell should we have sympathy for the Marines? They invaded LV-426. They came for the xenomorphs. They entered the atmosphere processing station with guns. Intentions clear. But the xenomorphs didn't even strike the Marines first anyway. No, the Marines began the fun when they killed a chestburster. They burned a baby with fire. Only then did the xenomorphs respond in kind. It's our human bias that blinds us to the way in which the humans cornered the xenomorphs and forced their hands, or rather, inner jaws. Okay, I mean, the Xeno that took out the escape shuttle, yeah, fine, he's a dick. But honestly, if he's the worst of them, xenomorphs are pretty decent creatures. And can we please talk about Ellen Ripley's actions in Aliens? I mean, the woman was a murderous psychopath. In the process of fleeing the soon-to-explode planet, she ran back in to save the little girl Newt. She found and rescued the girl, and on the way back out, the two ended up in the Xenomorph Queen's chamber. Let's call the Queen Barbara. Now, all seemed fine and dandy. No one was attacking Ellen or seemed like they were about to attack her. She could have just left with the little girl in peace. But Ripley said, "Leroy Jenkins!" and burned all of Queen Barbara's eggs to death. I mean, how would your mom feel if Ellen Ripley burned you to death when you were in her egg? So yeah, at this point, Mama gonna be angry and go on the offensive. I actually find it kind of selfless that Queen Barbara stowed herself away on the escape shuttle, clearly ready and willing to sacrifice her life for her children. And she still had to watch as her entire family was massacred in the ensuing explosion on LV-426 as the dropship raced back to the Sulaco. Yes, she murdered Bishop, but as we've established, the androids had it coming. And yeah, she went after the little girl too, but I mean, a kid for a kid. I don't love it, but yeah, I feel like that's fair. Then we have Alien 3. Once again, it's Weyland-Yutani's fault that the xenomorphs ended up on the planet Fiorina 161, as they knew that a queen facehugger was alive aboard the Sulaco. So the facehugger on board the Sulaco was just along for the ride trying to survive. It didn't invade the planet. Now, admittedly, the xenomorph attacked first on Fiorina. Perhaps the reason the xenomorph on this planet, let's call him Ricky, was killing everyone was to make his victims pay for their sins. As Dr. Clemens states,
I think I was let off lightly.
Did you serve your time here?
The justice system, it seems, did not dole out punishments to these men that fit their crimes. So enter the xenomorph as a Grim Reaper, an angel of death working on behalf of divine forces to balance good and evil in the universe. The inmates' leader Dylan, somewhat of a spiritual monk, even openly acknowledges that the xenomorph is there to judge them.
The wrath has come and the time is near for us to be judged. The apocalypse is upon us.
But our self-defense criteria of CXT applies here as well, as given the xenomorph's genetic memory, it'd be completely ridiculous by now to continue to expect xenomorphs to act amicably towards any human. Perhaps had humans been peaceful to them from the beginning, then none of the bloodshed would ever have taken place. Then there's Alien Resurrection, and I mean, the humans were almost entirely at fault in this one. The scientists in the film provided human specimens to facehuggers and directly bred the xenomorphs themselves. So we had a situation in which xenomorphs, with their inherited memories of humans committing violence against their ancestors, were born into imprisonment, trapped on the USM Auriga under the control of malicious humans. The scientists were experimenting on the xenomorphs, even mocking them and physically torturing them. Out of desperation to survive, one of the trapped xenomorphs, we'll call him Frank, killed the other so that its acid blood would seep through the floor and thus provide an escape route. A noble sacrifice on the part of the xenomorph, who gave its life so that Frank could go free. As we know by their reluctance to attack Ripley in both Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection due to her containing a xenomorph embryo and xenomorph DNA within her respectively, xenomorphs don't like to kill their own. But horrific circumstances forced Frank to do the unthinkable. And of course, after knowing nothing but pain and death aboard the Eureka at the hands of the human scientists, are we to expect the newly free Frank was going to just assume that all of the other humans on the ship were peaceful? No way, man. Frank, traumatized by his experiences, lashed out in violence against his oppressors. The xenomorphs aboard the ship were fighting back against the bastards who tortured them and who continued to want to recapture them and/or kill them. Sorry, but nah. Frank ain't going back to prison. What about the mercenary squad aboard the ship, though? Well, this is where the second principle of our theory comes into play once again. The xenomorphs were acting as arbiters of justice vis-a-vis the mercenaries. These jackasses kidnapped other humans for the scientists to use as hosts to breed xenomorphs, and were due for some atonement. And as for the newborn xenomorph, the horrid byproduct of the scientists' experiments, well, did you not feel bad for it? I mean, it thought Ripley was its mother, it protected her, killed the evil scientist dude and the xenomorph queen for her. And what did mommy do? She ran away and tried to abandon it. And then when the newborn went to try and find its mom, what did mom do? She murdered it in the most brutal way possible. So the next time xenomorphs come into contact with humans, let's not be surprised if they aren't overly friendly. Comment down below telling me how much you hate me and why you disagree with me. Subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell. For now, my name is American Ben, and I'll catch you next time. Generation Films, peace.